Welcome back to another episode of Elephant Den. It's Ashley.
And Alex.
And on today's episode, we'll be discussing another Martin Scorsese film. This one came out in 1982, and it's called The King of Comedy. Rupert Pumpkin... Oops, I called him Pumpkin.
What a great name that is, Rupert Pupkin.
Rupert Pupkin.
Suits the character.
Rupert Pupkin is a failure in life, but a celebrity in his own mind, hosting an imaginary talk show in his mother's basement. But when he meets Jerry Langford, a famous host of a late-night talk show, his obsession spirals out of control to where he takes his fate into his own hands.
So we're focusing on this era of Scorsese because it's really unlike anyone's filmography, the films he made spanning from the 70s and 80s, where the stories he tells are much more intimate than what we get from him later on in his career up until now. After Goodfellas, he kind of went into the mob genre for a while, which included these big epic cast ensembles, and that's kind of stuck. I love this period of films he made, and King of Comedy is no exception. I thought it was fantastic. He's an aspiring comedian. He comes off as not funny at all. We just see he's very obsessive. He has stalker tendencies.
Traits, yeah.
With this Jerry Langford comic, who's actually quite a famous actor in real life.
He was given one of the highest paid contracts ever between a single entertainer in a studio.
Please welcome Jerry Lewis.
So how did you come across this film? Because you're the one who introduced it to me. And
Without having seen it.
Yeah, and you haven't seen it.
It was when The Joker came out a few years ago, and everyone made the connection that the trailers and the film really reminded them of two films, both Scorsese films. One, Taxi Driver, which we just reviewed, and as well, King of Comedy. Now, after both watching the film, and we've seen Joker multiple times, without a doubt, you can't separate the two, to where Joker almost becomes a little redundant. You know, they made it their own with the Batman lore, and it being kind of an interesting take on the origin story from the Joker's perspective. I think the greatest scene, or the great scene in the Joker, is when he finally gets on the talk show against Robert De Niro, who's the talk show host. Also a clear,
indicator that there was some.
Thank you. And
influence.
In that scene, there's this sudden violence that just explodes. And watching King of Comedy, I was anticipating that violence to come. And when it didn't, it went from a good film to a great film because it exceeded my expectations. And part of that was because I watched Joker before I knew they had a connection. Throughout the film, we're not really sure how talented he is or not. No. We just get a sense that he's quite pathetic and quite delusional. A big portion of the plot is him trying to just get back in the same room with Jerry and show him his act. And it's kind of, you beloved him for that, yet he keeps getting rejected. At the same time, we cut to scenes where he's in his mom's basement talking to himself, pretending that Jerry's there with him and they're working together.
With his fake setup.
And part of that adds to the creep factor. It's only in the final act of the film where he takes things into his own hands after finally being rejected once too much. This is when I thought the violence was going to break out, but he kidnaps Jerry.
Yeah.
And as a ransom, he asks the TV network and the FBI to have him on the show so he could have his act, his performance. And they go for it with the idea that he's going to release Jerry. And the film decides to not have Jerry be killed, but instead Rupert does this great performance, which we see uncut. Yeah. And he's quite good. I was so entranced in that moment, and it was so profound. And that's when I realized, well, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it took it to a level above and beyond that, which I think most people would think would be the obvious choice, would be for him to go full mental and mad and kill this guy, which he doesn't.
Here you have somebody who's constantly being rejected, and for the most part, stereotypically, that could look like someone going completely mad and going on a killing spree, or
Definitely.
you know,
I think so.
putting their anger out to the world.
What it actually ended up happening, it made it such a good satire, where it has that comedy tragedy, where it's showing you the toxicity of this American dream. We're told in this country, anyone from anywhere with enough belief, they could obtain any level of success.
Yeah.
And that's simply not the case. There's plenty of people like Rupert Pupkin who are talented enough to where they have every right to pursue what they're dreaming, what they're chasing. There should be nothing wrong with that, but the disappointment, which could be inevitable for most people, it's no surprise that there could be a few needles in the haystack that they just end up doing something completely wrong.
Well, and it's interesting because I like what you said, where he's not really doing anything wrong in the beginning, in the sense of like he has this dream and he's going for it and achieving it by through Jerry Langford, which, I mean, like eventually you do start to see that he does cross the line, and that's why it becomes a little delusional. And but you feel for him because you feel like he is doing the right necessary steps to move forward in succeeding, especially in this kind of industry. What this film does a really good job with, because even him waiting in the waiting room, it's that constant pushing of like going further as to like what is the social norm.
Coming from an older school mentality, you know, you just need to show face. You just need to walk in the building and present yourself. And sometimes,
and usually that works.
Usually that can and has worked in the past. I don't think that's a completely dead theory or way to go about it, but it doesn't always work, and it could very easily be perceived or crossed into delusion. I think the film is very purposeful with showing us enough of both to where, like I said, you're endeared by him and him trying, but also from the very beginning we see the way he sets up meeting Jerry is a con. He's a stalker, right? And when he's talking to himself in his mom's basement, it's hilarious, but it's also really sad and part creepy.
Yeah.
And I love that, you know, that complexity of how to feel about it, right? You know, it's hard to sometimes have enough humility or pause, because what his thing is he's just so relentlessly going for it, right? What really creates the perspective of him being delusional. Where most people, or a lot of people, you know, they have doubts, they have to go through the process of not believing in themselves, and then like having a boost of, you know, something going right, or whatever it is, an audition or a job that you get. But he's just relentless, and that could be scary.
I think it was so good to relate it to comedy, to completely take out that dark, sad craziness to it. Because there's people out there who do this, you know, and it's mostly like, I would say people who do follow celebrities, who are obsessed with the celebrity lifestyle and whatnot. So like there's people out there who act exactly like Rupert Pupkin, but I love that they collaborated with comedy to like add that dark satire to it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. I just love that juxtaposition, and it really I mean, it just goes all the way in the end when he has his stand up and he's there telling the audience, he's like, sorry, Jerry could be here tonight. He's a bit tied up. I tied him up. And and it's gold.
It's so gold.
And yet he's being honest. He gets arrested, right? And in the end, he's
idolized.
He's idolized for
what he
doing
had done.
What that crazy thing that he did, and because it's a felony to kidnap someone, and he did the time for it. But what came out of it, his night of being a king, and he has that great line of,
"Better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime."
I really loved it. It's kind of like a perfect film. Everything it goes for just ticks all the boxes. De Niro's great. His supporting cast is great.
No, it was a very enjoyable film. I highly recommend it just to watch how crazy a character can be, you know? And it was quite enjoyable with some laughs in there.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I would say it's pretty much a perfect film.
Well, thank you so much again for watching. We greatly appreciate your views, your comments. Leave those comments. We'd love to have a discussion furthermore after the
we
video.
love it when you comment, so please do, because we just want to keep discussions about movies going. That's what we're about. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. Check us out for more videos. We talk about other films, not just Martin Scorsese films. And we also have Instagram, which is where you could follow us for more updates and more info about us. It's called @AshleyandAlex. We also have Letterboxd.
Letterboxd is a great app if you're interested in cinema. It's where you could organize movies you've watched, how you would rate them, see other people's discussions on the film. You could keep a list of films that you have yet to watch. It's just a great app to really engross yourself in the film community, and we love using it.
Yeah, definitely check us out. It's @AshleyandAlex as well, so just check us out on Letterboxd. You're awesome.